What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. Finally back, probably about 70%. It was looking rough for your boy. HP bar was flashing red for a little bit, but we're feeling good enough to be able to start getting some content going again. So 2023 New York Jets Undrafted Free Agent class. We're diving back into it. We talked about another weapon, Xavier Gipson, a couple days ago. We're covering wide receiver T.J. Luther now. Formerly a Wooford, ended up finishing with Gardner-Webb, but he brings some pretty intriguing skill sets. To be honest, this was a pretty straightforward diagnosis of this particular player. There wasn't anything overly exceptional. There wasn't anything overly underwhelming from what I checked out with Luther here. But as mentioned, finished with Gardner-Webb, 6'1", 185 pounds. So he's bringing some NFL size to him. Track background. Originally played for Wooford, as we mentioned. Got a pretty decent guaranteed contract from the Jets as an undrafted free agent. I don't know what those specific numbers were, but I want to say at minimum it was about 50 grand. At most, probably about 110. So decent enough to say that we plan on seeing if we can get him developed on this roster, right? Not necessarily throwaway money, but decent enough to make you feel like he can make the practice squad. Coming off his 2022 season, 63 catches, 1,166 yards, averaged 18.5 yards per catch, and had 8 touchdowns. Now, some of the things I really liked about what I checked out with him, he returned kicks. Obviously, that's a huge plus. We talked about Xavier Gipson and his ability to return punts. So having that extra special teams value, you feel comfortable, especially if you do want to carry 6 wide receivers. Having a guy like T.J. Luther here on the end that can replace a Denzel Mims, for example, who has been getting a little bit more special teams ability, but that's more in terms of the coverage unit and not necessarily being able to go out there and help influence field position, at least offensively anyways. Led his team in receiving his senior year. He brings great acceleration to win his routes early, so a lot of the time when you check him out, within the first 5 to 7 steps, he's usually going to have his guy beat already. Can high point the ball. He's a big play threat. His first 2 years at Wooford, he averaged over 20 yards per catch. Things trailed off a little bit. He gets back to Gardner-Webb, or gets to Gardner-Webb anyways. You start seeing that number pick back up again. And then he's a solid blocker overall, right? Again, some of the things that we're talking about with this guy are pretty straightforward. Decent hands, NFL size, big playability. These are things that you can easily go out there and try to develop with a wide receiver. That's at the bottom of your roster. And, hopefully you ideally think he could turn into more, right? Victor Cruz kind of being one of the highlights of those guys that are bottom tier players at first until they're able to go and, see the field, get some production out there, get teams comfortable with them. Opportunities-wise, again, pretty straightforward. He needs to work on his releases versus press coverage. I know he's beating guys on routes a lot early, but considering he's going to be most likely a boundary receiver coming into the NFL, he's a guy that's going to need some work, getting a little bit stronger, being able to utilize that speed in a different manner when he's getting his releases off. So not necessarily just being able to beat press coverage, but more specifically the type of releases he can use, and having a guy like Wilson on the roster, for example, who's been able to go out there and do it consistently his rookie year, hopefully get some tips and some takeaways from a guy like him. They don't have the same kind of movement ability or anything like that, but he might be able to, utilize some of those finer points of route running, or at least getting those initial releases off to help out his game. And then he did have some drops. So I said decent hands for a reason. There are quite a few drops over the last 2 years of his game tape. So that's something you want to see him significantly decline, especially when you think about the New York Jets and the history that we've had. Surface level wise, it seemed like we've always had a pretty underwhelming wide receiver group in terms of hauling in the hard catches, but also just the easy ones. We've missed a lot of easy throws from quarterback play. The easy ones that we should have catch, it seems like we end up fumbling those. So not something we want to see continue as a trend. He's kind of been considered a speed threat due to his big playability. So pro comparison wise, the biggest ones I've seen, Mecole Hardman and Vincent Smith, both a present and previous member of this wide receiver unit. Mecole Hardman coming on recently, Vincent Smith being an underrated part of what we had going on in our rotation for the last couple of years. So this will be an interesting guy. We'll see if he develops. Personally, I still like a guy like Xavier Gipson a little bit more. But TJ Luther does bring more attributes that you can go out there and get it excited about. So let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll catch you guys again. Peace.